Hi, I'm Michael Bean, and this is your free class for myfreeactingclass.com. Today, we're going to be workshopping scenes from students in the spring session who have agreed to share their work with us and workshop live. So hopefully you can watch their progress week by week, and by seeing the notes that they get, you can think about how to affect your own self-tapes. The game here is figuring out what kinds of skills we need to do believable, expressive work that is appropriate for camera. And there's a whole nested set of skills, and the best way I know to teach those skills is just by doing it in real time and showing it. Today's scenes all ended up being comedy, and so there are some interesting through lines that you'll see with comedy. One of the things that especially in broader comedy, you'll see is that pacing, timing becomes very important. And the further you are into pure comedy, the more important that timing becomes, because the writers will often set the audience up for a laugh. And so comedy, if you see a comedy script on the page and you slow the pacing all the way down to drama, so it's like funny thing, funny thing, funny thing. You can kill any comedy by just putting lots of air in between it. I've had it described as a tennis match. And if you keep the tennis match going, where it's like da, 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 then when you hit the punchline, then there can often be a pause that's almost built into the script by a good writer, where they're essentially manipulating the audience and trying to control, like, when is the laugh going to come. They're like, no, you gotta listen, you gotta listen, you gotta listen, you gotta listen. There it is. And Christina gets the pie in the face. And now there's a moment where at least the little kids watching can be like, ah, ha, 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 pie in the face. And then they can move on to the next thing. So we're going to talk about pacing. And the other thing that I think is worth talking about is flips. So Alex asked a question about his scene. He was like, how far can you go with comedy? How animated can you be and still be believable? I want to go back to this idea that believable means believable for the style of the show that you're in. Some of that you can guess by looking at past episodes of the show, if it's an existing show, or going and looking up the director or the producers on imdb.com and watching little bits of the last thing that they've done. But there's a certain amount of guesswork there. And so I want to lead with the idea that you're never going to be perfect at this. The idea is just to give them something that shows that you know what you're doing and you're funny and you've got as much of the style as you can, so that they can look at it and go, oh, wow, yeah, this person's got something interesting and they missed the mark a little bit. So we should give them notes and get them to do it again. And that's what a callback's about. Right. Especially when you're going out for anything that's a little bit more sophisticated, you don't have to have it all right the first time. Reference the tape that we were looking at from Dia, where I had all those notes and she was like, I gotta go back. That kind of thing happens all the time. And if you went back and looked at some of the My Free Acting class lessons from the past several years, there's a couple of them that are marked like, got the job, where you can watch me in 1 week take apart somebody's self-tape and say, here are all the notes. And then next week, watch them come back and say, yeah, I booked that one. The perfection is not the goal with these. So how big is too big? There's a judgment call there. I think that if you top level, the tool that I like best is if you are going to go very broad, right? So if you're going to make a big character choice, make sure that you put in a couple of moments of you being honest in the scene so that they know it's a character choice and not just like that's you as a person and you're stuck there. Right. So let's say that I'm doing a scene with Christina and I've decided that, like, I'm going to be the, like, super prissy, mean person. And I'm like, oh, I think that's fun. I'm going to go like super prissy and mean, and I'm going to go really big with it. And I wouldn't want to do that for 2 minutes, partly because anything that you do consistently without ever changing stops being interesting, but also because I want to demonstrate, even in my self-tape, that I'm not stuck at 11. right? I'm not going to step out of the character, but like I might have these like super prissy, mean moments with Christina and then be like, oh, that's my sandwich. There's a line here where, I'm just going to speak as a normal person. And partly the contrast of that can be funny. So talking about the flips. But also I think for me, that indicates to anybody watching, oh, this person has that range available to them and they're not just stuck in cartoon mode all the time. It's a pretty bold choice to come in as a cartoon, to come in as like a voiceover type character for a film TV project. Generally speaking, the only times I would suggest doing that is if you're in a show where you are sure it is for little children, uh, right? That's who the audience is, and anything other than that, then you're taking a significant risk. Significant risks sometimes pay off, but that's my advice is you probably want to hit somewhere in the middle. You want to think about what is this character doing in the script, or what's going on. Now, flip is a sudden and abrupt transition between one thing and another. And this is signature for comedy, especially broad comedy and a drama. Christina says something to me and I'm like, oh, I'm going to slowly take that in. It's going to impact me in like subtle internal ways. And in a comedy, we can make a very abrupt transition from like, I'm in the middle, and so I'm in the middle of something over here. And then, suddenly I take Christina in, snap, and the whole point is to surprise the audience or to try and catch them off guard and trigger that like them laughing or being amused by it, and I would say that we want those reactions to still be as honest as possible. They're often very, very escalated beyond what a normal person might react to enormously, but the reaction can be enormous, and it's really just the timing that we adjust as part of the comedy, where we go very abruptly from this thing, boom, all the way to that thing. If you have questions about comedy or about my notes or about the scenes, please feel free to throw them into the chat window and let's jump in to looking at Alex's scene. Alex is doing a scene from a show called Interns, and it's an older show, something from my archive. As the description for the character is Kurt, very nerdy looking, holding a pineapple. There's a patch on his windbreaker that says Kurt. That's sort of the intro to the character that's written into the script. Let's watch one of Alex's takes for it because he did a couple of them, and then go into the workshopping with Alex live and in person. Now, I would say that this show looks like it's made for adults. The main characters, are all in their 20s, and there's drinking and flirting and people talking about sex, and so it's like, okay, while that could be a show aimed at 16-year-olds, it's less likely. It's at least with the content that's here on the script. That's my take on it. So that gives us an idea of the audience, and then here is Alex's performance. Now you can see right from the beginning, we've got Alex in what's called a medium close-up. Oh, I'm just going to pull something really quick for you all. This is something from the archive that might be helpful to look at. So framing images, shot types. So we've got extreme close-up, just eyeballs. If we're in a horror movie, I have no idea if this language is still used. BCU, close-up, medium close-up, or medium shot. Somewhere in here, and the reason I put a big red box around these, right? Medium shot, down at the knees, long shot, all the way down to the feet, very long shot, you're kind of pulled back. Now, this is where you're going to do most of your auditions, is somewhere between a medium close-up and a medium shot. Medium shot, typically you would do only if the project that you were doing required more action. So if it's a commercial or if it's a show where you're going to be moving more. Otherwise, you want to sneak up close to this medium close-up, just so you can see more detail in the eyeballs. So back to Alex, And you can see that we've got a great eye light. He's got a neutral background. It doesn't matter if it's a wall, a curtain. It's just what's important is that there's just nothing interesting to look at. And right now, there's nothing more interesting to look at than Alex and his shiny eyeballs, which is exactly what we want with something like this.
Hi, Kurt. Indeed. Or perhaps an imposter wearing Kurt's jacket. Are you? No. Hi, I'm Gideon. For you, it is an excellent metaphor for a party because technically the pineapple is not a single flower, but several flowers pressed together becoming something delicious. You must be into flowers. No, just metaphors. Gideon, can I ask you something? Sorry, be right back. You must be Kurt. Or perhaps someone impossible. Rigby, are you Gideon's date? I have that honor, yes. She's so boring, Kurt. You'd be much better off hanging with me.
So Alex, really fun the action there at the very end of it. I think that's a really bold choice, totally right for this kind of comedy, is the like, I'm being pulled away by somebody else in the scene. That really works for me. The opening beat of the scene, what's written is, here's Kurt, he's very nerdy. And so I think that the very top of the scene is worth workshopping, because I don't think you gave us that right at the beginning. I think that you were having so much fun skulking around, which I think you got from the line, maybe I'm an imposter, that inspired you to like play this imposter game. And I think that it was very fun for Alex and totally not supported by the script. Right, so that I think is an example of like a bold choice where you're like, this is really fun, that takes us off the story. Right, I think that if you wanted to do that in real time, where you're there and you're nerdy, and then as a joke for the person you're talking to, you're like, hey, I'm an imposter. Sure, if it's relational, if it's with that person, if it's to make them laugh, that would make sense. But you skulking around the party, very fun for Alex, not the Kurt that is written in the script, I don't think. That's my opinion. And so I think it's worth workshopping that. You can see that this one, Alex was also reading with himself, like he did last week. And in this one, particularly because the timing on comedy is so particular, a couple of those jokes didn't quite work because he's reading with a tape. And the tape can't give him that like half-second pause for the line, you must be really into pineapples, to land before he transitions to saying, no, I'm just really into metaphors. He covered really well. And again, if all you've got to record with is yourself, it's better than nothing. It's better than turning the tape down. I would say that it still is a last resort if you are recording a professional audition. Now, this is for class. It's not a professional audition. I don't want Alex to have to pay money to have somebody to read with him. No, don't do that if you don't have to. But if you are recording a professional audition, just grab somebody from the hallway and be like, here, can you please read the scene with me? Just have a real human reader if you possibly can. It's something that shows up in casting director notes all the time. Have a reader, read with an actor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know if this is shifting in the UK where Alex is, but certainly in Vancouver, and I think in some of the other markets that I have students who are connected to, casting is starting to either be forced by the union or to voluntarily set aside a certain amount of time to have either Zoom auditions, basically have a reader at the office record in person or by Zoom. The Dia says, any tips on reading with a non-actor? Oof, it's come up here in class lots of times. Thank you for the question. You basically practice what one of my teachers in theater school called the standard declension with actors, which is you say, oh, that's great. Yeah, great choice. Okay, just do a little less. Oh, yeah, that's great. That's great. Little less. Yeah, okay, even less. Yeah, no, just really, okay, even less. Really internalize it. Okay, yeah, now cut it. Just do nothing. Nothing at all. Yeah, perfect. That's perfect. Just like that. That the ideal thing with a reader who's a non-actor is to somehow make them feel good about participating with you while getting them to not be distracting and not suck. My experience getting non-actors to read is that often they get very excited about the acting, and that ends up being distracting, which you'll hear when we watch Duke's tape, and his reader is twice as loud as him and doing a really terrible accent. And it's so distracting, that I'm like, oh my God, like turn the volume down on this reader. Like he's having so much fun, but I want to be focused on Duke and I want to be thinking Duke is fun and not listening to his reader, do a drawl like he's John Wayne. Uh, so I would say get your reader to do less, and the and then if you can, uh, get an actual actor to to record it with you by just getting another device, even if it's just a phone and audio, and having them there beside the camera. Because if you are using the civilians in your life or your recording device to make sure you got the lines totally down, that can be a 15-minute ask for somebody if you're asking electronically, right? It doesn't have to be an enormous ask for somebody else's time to record with you. And maybe that puts you closer in touch with the way that we all used to audition, which is I'm going to go in the room, I'm going to have 4 or 5 minutes tops. Maybe I'm gonna have 2.5 minutes if I'm going in and doing just a page or two. So throwing that out there. Anything we can do to brief them, just get them to be quiet and do less. So it's like, hey, I'm gonna put you farther away from the camera, even quieter, even less, just like you're talking about breakfast. Right. The like, don't act it at all. Sometimes is a note that's helpful. Just say the words, not like a robot, but just say it. That I have found sometimes is helpful. And then you just want to place them far enough away from the camera. Okay, I'm getting distracted from Alex. Let's go back to working on Alex's tape. And so I want to workshop this opening beat here.
Hi, Kurt. Indeed. Or perhaps an imposter wearing Kurt's jacket. Are you? No. Hi, I'm Gideon. For you, it is the next.
And then I want to see if by doing the pineapple thing in real time, I can show everybody what I mean about the timing being significant. I can't guarantee it's going to be funny because you've heard it 4 times now. So it's very unlikely to surprise you like, oh, whoa, that came out of nowhere. But we can at least technically talk about the comedy. And man, is there anything less funny than technically talking about comedy? But if it gives us skills that get to the point where we can surprise audiences, then maybe we're doing the right thing. So Alex, let me pin you and drop myself out. Do you have any questions before we jump in?
No.
Okay, great. So let's. We still want this to be Alex, right? And Alex chose not to not to use wardrobe to say nerdy. Like that. That's one way that you could approach this script, right? Like you could wear a collared shirt and do the buttons all the way up, right? There are lots of like he could have gotten a pair of glasses and poked the lenses out and worn those. Nothing says nerdy or smart, like adding a pair of glasses to your character, which we saw with Shoku's tape from last week. So if Alex is choosing not to do that, that's fine. Like totally legit. And but then the onus is on the acting and the choices there to show nerdy for us. So as opposed to like skulking around the party, which I suppose is a very nerdy thing to do. Like can tell me if you were going to describe this character in like 4 or 5 words. We've got nerdy. What else? How would you describe this character?
Awkward. Not very sociable.
Okay.
And goofy.
Great. I would say also based on the later pages of the script, which I think I sent you, even though it didn't necessarily prepare, he's also very, very smart.
Yeah, smart. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So I think it's important to have at least some positive character attributes when you're describing your character. So you're not just like, I don't know, I'm just a total loser. It's going to be hard for you to play without judging them in that case. So awkward, the the nerdy, uh, there's some like social things happening here, and so are you already in the party, or are you at the door?
I'm arriving. I'm at the door.
You're at the door, great. And so show me what it looks like, for this person to be like, oh my gosh, this is my date. I'm about to meet my date, and do the opening improv, focused on the door, like that, where you're like checking yourself out, and we'll just see what emerges from that. Stand by,
Okay.
and I would say keep the pineapple behind your back because you've just knocked on the door. Stand by and action.
Oh, first girl I'm talking to. Oh,
Hi, hi, Kurt.
indeed. Or perhaps I'm an imposter wearing Kurt's jacket.
Are you?
No.
Hi, I'm Jillian.
For you. It is an excellent metaphor for a party because technically the pineapple is not a single flower, but several flowers pressed together, becoming something delicious.
You must be into flowers.
No, just metaphors.
Right. And so he's charming, and we can see that he likes the girl. So let's go back and massage this and just see if there's anything more to explore here. But you're getting the sense of it now that if we make it about the date as opposed to about the game that you wanted to play, then the opening beat maybe reads a little bit more cleanly. Now, let's be inspired by the game you wanted to play and go further with the thing about being an imposter, because it's something that delights Alex. There's nothing that's going to look nerdier than you just going totally ham on your game of like being a sneaky spy imposter. Like, go as far as you want with that because it's a game, and then you're going to snap out of it to talk to her, right? It is a game for her benefit. So we're not seeing that you are a ham actor doing a cartoon. What we're seeing is that you, the character, are doing something funny on purpose to make the other character laugh.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you have a lot of permission inside of that. The other thing is take in Jillian this time.
Okay.
Let's see a stronger opinion of Jillian. Let's make Jillian, like more appealing or more exciting or more fascinating and strange. So let's really make a clear, strong choice about the strong feeling or opinion about Jillian, so that when I say hi, Kurt, you're like, whoa, that's my date, and we get
Okay.
to
Cool.
you see her for the first time. Bye and action. Hi, Kurt.
Indeed. Or perhaps I'm an imposter wearing Kurt's jacket.
Are you?
No.
Good. Now drop. You got to drop it. You got to drop it on the no. That you back again. Go as far as you can with the perhaps I'm an imposter. Really, really fun. But then you got to drop it on the no. So you're showing me.
Okay. Or perhaps I'm an imposter wearing Kurt's jacket.
Are you?
No.
Hi, I'm Jillian.
For you. It is an excellent
Great.
metaphor for a
Let's catch
party.
you off there. Beautiful. Really nice, Alex. The relationship with Jillian was clear that time. Seeing her, and I think that was an example for everybody what I was talking about when I say a flip, right? So for him to like be so in the game and be like, no, I'm just being dorky. Okay. And we could, if we wanted to push it sort of more towards realism, get him to clock his own awkwardness and take that in. That's one of those stylistic choices that we'd have to go look at some of the material to know for sure, right? If Kurt is meant to be a clueless nerd who's like, I'm horribly awkward and I think I'm amazing, right? That puts us in one version of comedy. And if he's taking in the fact that other people maybe don't think he's quite as funny as he is, that puts us into a slightly different kind of comedy. One way that I like thinking about comedy is how high are the consequences, either physically or emotionally. Like when you do something awkward, uh, do you feel embarrassed, or do you do something hideously, horribly awkward? Everybody laughs at you, and then 10 seconds later, you are doing something else entirely and you've forgotten it. That can give you a clue about how deep you are in pure comedy. Alex, any questions before we move on?
No, I just want to add one thing. I tried to dress up as I imagine Kurt. I tried to pop some lenses of like glasses for my computer, but I couldn't do it. So I just nah, forget about it. And I thought about the shirt, and I was like, I tried the shirt. I was buttoning up, and I thought maybe I'm thinking it too much. Maybe I
Yeah,
should focus.
great. I think that's a really legitimate way to make that choice, right? Like wardrobe is only one way to tell that story. We got the story that you were nerdy just fine from the games you were playing. You don't need the outfit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and especially if it's going to make you feel, if it's going to make you feel self-conscious, or it's going to impair your ability to do good work. I just want to empower everybody, to go, okay, right, that's not where I'm going to put my energy. Like I could do that, or there's a version of this character that is like that, but that's not my version because I need something that feels good to me that I can live inside of. Let's move on to working on Shoku's scene. So Shoku's got a script from a TV movie which is like a teacher in the classroom. Uh, if if y'all remember, this was the tape from last week. I'll just show you the first little piece of it.
This is really how he usually does it? Okay. How about if you give me a vocabulary test?
Right, so we're 20 seconds in and finally we understand, we know what's happening in the scene. One of the things that I talked to Shoku about last week was just, let's pick up the pace and really think about those extended vowels. Very, very normal for new actors, or especially who are anybody who's focused on the feeling. It's true in real life, when we're feeling things, we often do sometimes extend the vowels, but it happens very rarely. Will happen on individual words. And if I'm listening to a script as an acting teacher, and every vowel is enormously extended, then I'm like, oh, this is the reason this sounds very theatrical is because this person is trying to do something, and it's reading as theatrical because it is very, very, very rare for people to speak that way. Let's take a look at the more recent tape, because this is the first time in this class, that there's been an opportunity to review 2 tapes and then workshop. I can say right away that the last one was 1:27, and this is 57 seconds. So we shaved off 30 seconds, which certainly bodes well, doesn't it?
This is really how he usually does it? Okay. How about if you give me a vocabulary?
Great. Such great adjustment. Here, Shoku, this one reads more like you having a real conversation with your class.
I'm serious. Test me. See how I do. Okay. Imbibe.
I know that this is something that's come up a couple of times, Shoku, and that you're sort of just doing your best with the setup you've got. But right now, your face, this part of your face, like one corner of your chin is very much lit and the rest of your face is in shadow. But that's something that you definitely would want to correct before doing a professional audition. Like even if you were sending a tape like this to an agent, the visually, even if the acting is excellent, visually it's not as flattering as it could be because you are not as well lit as you could be. It's possible that the tape would look like, oh, this is somebody who sort of doesn't quite have it figured out. Like aside from that, you're in the center of the frame. There's a nice neutral backdrop, looks great. I would just say keep experimenting with like what can you grab in your house and bring to point at your face so that you're looks like you've got a good eye light here. but so that we can correct this thing about you being in shadow. Even if it means it does throw a little bit of shadow on the wall, personally, I would prefer to see somebody's face well lit and a little bit of shadow on the wall behind them. You know, it's a matter of personal preference there, but I think that if it's flattering on you, we can probably handle a little bit of shadow.
Minstrel. Would you rather not? Kestrel. That's a bird of prey, like a hawk. Come on, give me a hard one.
If you're going to flash the book to the camera and it's supposed to be a dictionary, be careful that you're not using, I have no idea what this was, but it looks like it's a novel. Oh, we can even see the title. It's Queen Charlotte. There we go. Now we know what kind of novels Shoku likes to read. But that's the kind of thing that is going to catch attention. Like it is the idea of using the book to help ground yourself, or ground the scene, I think is useful. But don't flash us the book. Even if it was an actual dictionary, since it's not really about that, I don't think it's necessary to be like, look, I've got an actual dictionary, right? The book is more to ground you and give you a little bit of physical behavior to keep the scene going.
Hyloplasm. Oh, gee. That's a kind of blossom that doesn't know whether it's high or low. Okay, what does it mean?
Right. Warm, funny. I'm getting the sense, that you're a teacher. This works for me on so many levels, Shoku. Yeah, and you really took the notes from last time. Now I want to workshop the scene with you, here in real time. And I know that you're not set up quite the same way that you were for the tape, but I don't think that's a huge issue. And one of the things that you could have played with here is getting your reader to change the timing. Your reader was taking some very long pauses. And if this comes back to Dia saying, like, how do I work with a non-actor if I'm reading? One of the things that you sometimes have to do, is be very specific about, here's what I need you to do with your volume. Here's what like, if you are here to support me, here's what supporting me looks like. It looks like, can you pick up the pace on this? Can you jump in on this? Can you cut me off here? And it's rehearsing in some of that can sometimes be useful. So looking at this, I think that pacing, timing, we can still make some like slight adjustments, but mostly I want to give you the feedback that like you took the notes and it worked. I was like, oh yeah, this lady's teaching a class and she's like has like a warm, friendly relationship with these students. She's talking like a real person. I think that this is the most successful tape that you've done so far in terms of it came across as you, but it also came across as, for me, as the character in the place doing the thing. So let me pull up your script. And let's give you that moment before, of you're doing something terribly boring, and I could show you all the script, but like, she's sort of going through this and then basing this opening line off the audience reaction, right? And so have you got a book there to use? Great. So just so look down at the book and start reading things off of the book in a monotone voice. And I'm going to give you some like, oh God, reaction, so that you can come up, and ask me, is this how he really does it? And we would cut that off the tape later, but this is just to give you maybe a little bit more life to that opening moment. Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Sorry, you mean it's read something that it's not in my dialogue actual?
Correct. Just actually, yeah. like when you see me when I'm workshopping and I do improv with people.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. Janet is
no, even more monotone, right? Like you're a robot. I want you to be as boring and horrible as possible. Go. Just actually do whatever's on the page. Yeah.
Janet A. Brian B.
No, actually read whatever's there on the page in front of you.
Oh,
Don't pretend to read, because then you're going to get stuck in like improv mode. Just actually read whatever's on the page in a horribly boring way. Go.
okay. Tenant and landlord guide in Persian.
Oh God. Oh.
This is really how he usually does it?
Great. And do you feel yourself slow it way down? And probably it's because you're worried about the line. You're saying it for the first time with me. Go back to reading it out loud again.
Tenant and landlord guide in Persian.
Oh. Oh.
This is really how he usually does it?
Yep.
Okay. How about if you give me a vocabulary test?
Pick it up.
I'm serious. Test me. See how I do.
And then hand them the thing. Good. Now let's go back and give me those lines and take out the space between them. So you're not going to rush how you say it, but you're going to take out the space between the lines. If you're going to take a big long pause, there has to be something significant to react to. And without those present right now, the best way we can increase the believability is by taking out the space between the lines. So just go back to the line. This is how he usually does it.
So don't pause.
No pause between the lines.
Okay. From the beginning
Just
of
from this is how he usually does it.
okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
This
Right.
is really how he
Now that was really nice. Did you hear that? So she was in her real voice. Okay. And then she shifted up half an octave into her acting voice. This is how he really does. So I want you to drop into your actual voice, Shoku. And this is very, very normal thing. I don't think you're doing it on purpose, but it happens a lot when people perform. They are excited or anxious and their vocal cords tighten up and their voice pushes up half an octave. And that was a perfect example of you were like, oh, sorry. I'm I'm going to apologize, but here's my voice. And now I'm going to go into my acting voice. And so I want you to bring it back down into your actual voice. It's going to be much more interesting because it's going to have more variation in pitch, and that'll give us more information about you. Does it make sense? Right. So
Yeah.
just say the line like it's something you wanted to say. Go for it.
This is really how he usually
one more time, but drop down half an octave. You're still up here, and I just want you to say this is how he usually does it. I want you to completely let go of the preparation and just say it.
Okay, this is how you
Yeah, there you go. Good. Well, let's let it be a little
okay,
bit.
this is really how he usually does it. Okay. How about if you give me a vocabulary test?
Right away.
I'm serious. Test me. See how I do.
Okay, imbibe. Right away.
Means drink, which you better not.
Good. And can you feel yourself slowing down? And also every time you hit the end of a sentence right now, you're taking a little pause. And so just trying to get you to pick up the pace, here, Shoku, that's the only place from that last tape where I think we could make a little bit of movement. So I think right now that in order to help you remember, you are coming to a full stop at every time you hit a period, instead of continuing through here. And they're separate ideas. That is absolutely accurate. What I'm talking about is like a fairly subtle adjustment, but I think it might help. I'm going to give you the first one again. Okay, imbibe.
Means drink, which you better not.
Well, kestrel.
That's kind of bird of prey.
Pause.
I forgot.
Hawk. Pause. Good. Yeah. So you see what I'm saying? And it might just be that like now that you're on the spot, and I'm throwing things unexpected at you, the lines poof away. Also very, very normal, and something to be expected if you were ever doing, say, like a Zoom audition or a Zoom callback, is that you have to know the line so much better than you think you do, so that just in case you get adrenalized, you don't completely forget. Okay, imbibe.
Means drink, which you better not.
Kestrel.
That's a bird of prey, like a hawk. Come on, give me a hard one.
But now you rehearsed how to say that line, and so it sounds fake. Now just say it like it's true. Come on, give me a hard one. Don't do anything with it. Don't try and show me how you feel. Just say the line.
Oh, okay. Come on, give me a hard one.
Good, and it's really stuck in the way that you decided to deliver it. And so if that's option one, give me option two. Just say it a completely different way.
Come on, give me a hard one.
Right, now give me option three, totally different way. Don't extend any of your vowels. You're not allowed to extend any vowels. Go.
Come on, give me a hard one.
Great, that's option three. Give me option four.
Next.
Yeah, same line.
Sorry.
Same line. Come on, give me a hard one. That's it.
Okay. Come on, give me a hard one.
Good. Well,
No.
and one more time. It's just the you bracing yourself and shifting into acting mode that I'm trying to encourage you out of. That like,
Okay.
yes, it's really, really normal for acting to feel uncertain. And one of the ways to, as an actor, to move past that is to collapse the uncertainty. Is to go, oh, the way to deal with this feeling is to have no uncertainty. And when there's no uncertainty, it's not as interesting to watch. If we want it to be alive, then yeah, sometimes you're like, I'm not sure what to say and I have to talk anyway. And that's tricky. You're building your capacity for that right now. Yeah. And so thanks for letting me workshop that with you. I want you to remember that like you took the notes really well and that second take was much, much cleaner. And now to continuing to bring your attention to the voice, the timing, to I'm going to choose story, and I'm going to really work against rehearsing how to say any individual line.
Okay. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for being
Thank you.
brave. For those of you who are watching this lesson on YouTube and maybe haven't seen the previous lessons, Shoku had not done any amount of self-taping before coming to our first lesson. And so if you were just to watch the last 5 classes, the progression of her tapes from then until now, very, very dramatic. But it also means that she is doing the most vulnerable, uncomfortable thing of anybody in class, because she's like, yes, very imperfect, having to show up and want to learn anyway. So I feel very, very privileged to be participating in that. Thank you. Let's watch Duke's tape, and then we'll take a very quick look at Christina's before we wrap up today. This is something that Duke actually auditioned for. We're not going to have time to watch the whole thing, but I want to share at least the opening and then some pieces of it with you.
Fred, the hell you doing?
Open it.
I can't reach it.
What's going on, Fred? We need to talk. Open the window. Like hell I'm opening the window. This is invasion of privacy. You want to talk about invasion of privacy? How about your son invading the privacy of my daughter's mouth?
What does that mean? Listen to your mother. Get inside.
She's a bad kisser anyways.
And so this is what I'm talking about, where the reader is louder than Duke, and the reader is doing like quite a thick accent, and not in a like a particularly like genuine or skilled way. And for me, listening to it, I'm like, wow, that's distracting, especially because for the bulk of this scene, mostly Duke is just reacting to what he's hearing.
What was that? Nothing. You better keep a better eye on him. He's trouble. He's doing just fine before you two moved in. Seems to me your daughter's a problem here. Bit of a floozy, if you ask me. Hey, that's my daughter you're talking about. And she...
And so because this is a really interestingly tricky scene, because casting requested you to do this. Like they didn't mark this off, on the script. So their reactions are clearly important to them. But I would say that right now, a lot of these reactions are quite broad. Like it reads to me like you are, sort of line by line, like purposefully reacting or sort of intentionally reacting, as opposed to taking in what's happening, and having an opinion about it. And so one of the ways that we could address that, if we could move the camera in closer to you, I think we should do that while we workshop. And I also want to give you active permission, while we're doing this, Duke, to verbalize your responses. Yeah, I don't think you should add a lot of words. I don't think I think that it's inappropriate if you're doing a professional film and TV script while somebody else is talking to be like, I'm gonna add a whole line of dialogue and just keep talking. And like, because that takes us into writing territory, and most actors not great writers, or at least they're separate skills that need to be worked on separately. But making sound, adding a hey. Well, like all of that stuff is likely to keep you more alive and interested. And I would say, for the purpose of exploring it, go too far, or risk going too far on these particular reactions, so that we can look at it and like scale you back, because I think that that's one of the reasons that your reactions read as theatrical here, because maybe you felt like you weren't allowed to make noise. Whereas if in an audition, the focus is you, like on set, sure, while the camera's pointed at somebody else, maybe you shouldn't be making any noise. Like maybe that is a fair statement. But for an audition, go right ahead. And the definitely when I've workshopped with more experienced actors, I've witnessed that this is actually very normal. For folks to sort of add these little connecting sounds and words to make it feel more like a real conversation. There's an art to it, but it can be really, really helpful. We could workshop the first scene. My advice there would just be to not shout the whole first scene. I think that it was very appropriate for the top of that scene. But then by shouting, you just put us in a position where, like I was saying with Shoku, by shouting, you make everything sound similar, and we just lose some of the modularity of your voice. That maybe he's outside the window at first, but then you can bring your volume down to like, hey man, I'm gonna talk to you here, and then maybe we would have gotten a little bit more. In terms of adding something useful, I think that it's probably best to start here at the top of scene 2 with "Listen to Your Mother Get Inside." Whenever you're ready.
Listen to your mother, get inside.
She's a bad kisser anyways. What was that? Nothing?
Yeah.
You better keep an eye on him. He's trouble. He was doing just fine before you two moved in. Seems to me your daughter's the problem here, bit of a floozy if you ask me.
Damn
Hey.
straight.
Yeah, great. And so now find a clear, so you've got the kid who's all the way off on the side, right? You say something to him, you've got your wife on one side of the camera, you've got Fred on the other side of the camera. Who's the most important, person in the scene? Like, is this scene sort of facing off with Fred, or is this scene, facing off with Tammy? Like, who's more important to you, do you think?
More important to me is Tammy.
More important.
Fred's kind of getting in our face at the moment.
Fred's getting in your face. Great, good. So Tammy's. So why don't you turn your body so that one shoulder's facing Tammy, right? So the two of you as a unit, facing off against Fred. Well, let's get you to cross your arms over your chest. And what's the strong feeling or opinion about Fred? You said he's invading your space or something.
Fred's a good old boy, but he's acting up again.
Good.
Like he did yesterday on the bushes, and yeah.
Right. And so is it like, Fred, you're ridiculous? Is it like, just get out of here? Is it something else? What is it?
Well, I'm thinking I kind of enjoy confronting Fred. That's happening.
Good. Okay, great. Good. And so, yeah, and so with that, like, just keep looking at Fred and enjoying him making a fool of himself, and then keep throwing little looks over at Tammy. Like, did you hear that thing that he just said? Oh my God. Does that make sense? Right? Like, keep including those relationships out here, and then trust that when camera's in close enough, we're going to see as much as we need to. Okay. From the top of that scene, listen to your mother get inside, stand by, and action.
Listen to your mother, get inside.
She's a bad kisser anyway. What was that? Good. No, remember, we're not concerned with Earl here, right? We're concerned with Fred. What's funny is that Fred, is still reactive to this. Keep the relationships out here, right? If the most important thing here is that, like, you and Tammy are a unit against Fred, who's like, he's acting funny and ridiculous, then stay with Fred. Yeah, and it's enough to just have the opinion. But that scene made the start of the scene look like it was like, my kid's so weird. And that's not what the scene is about, or not what you just said you wanted to play with. Take it from the top of the scene again.
Yeah.
Action.
Listen to your mother, get inside.
She's a bad kisser anyway. What was that? Nothing. You had a better keep a better eye on him. He's trouble. Look at Fred. Fred's like posturing. Yeah, he was doing just fine before you two moved in. Seeing your daughter's the problem here. Bit of a floozy, if you ask me.
Big one.
Hey, that's my daughter you're talking about. And she never kissed no boys before she met Earl.
Yeah, that you know of.
Good. And that's reading more cleanly, right? The pacing on that and the relationships are really grounding that, Duke. Can you feel that?
Yes, thank you.
And then I would say that this last tape was an opportunity for you to like control your reader a little bit and just get them to lower their volume. Maybe you couldn't control how much fun they were having with the accent, but you could just have moved them further away from the camera.
Well,
Uh,
I had a moment where I thought about taking it out in post because I can edit it, the sound out, and I can have done that. So I probably would have next time. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. You're right. Sometimes you don't notice until after the tape. I've definitely had those moments myself. Christina, I've got to run really quickly, and so we're just gonna look at the start of this tape. Would you be willing to redo this tape for me if I gave you some notes on it, Christina? Okay, so this is from a TV pilot that I don't believe was ever made called Zip, and I think the writing is the writing's really snappy. There's some really fun stuff to it. This is like her in a coffee shop. When the guy who's clearly going to be her love interest in the show shows up.
I'll have a caramel macchiato. Large.
I think you mean venti.
I drink the coffee, but I don't speak the language.
Are you implying that we're not really in Italy?
Oh, but if we were.
Venti wouldn't mean large. It would mean 20.
Good. Now, I think you cheated yourself of this moment of realizing that you both are smart and know this about Venti, by starting with like being all shiny and excited about the guy right from the first moment. So I will send you an email with some more detailed notes on this, Christina. But top level, I would say that like you're just working in a coffee shop. They're like, I'm just working in a coffee shop. Yeah, okay. The like Beverly Hills guy. What do you want? Sure, I'm smart. I'm a wise ass. I'm gonna, like give you some sass. And oh, you can meet me with the sass. Oh, that's interesting. That's much more alive than if you start with like, oh, you're magical, and then I'm gonna try and discover how magical you are partway in the scene. That I think you cheated yourself of that opportunity, or maybe just sort of didn't notice that transition in the script. And so that would be the most significant shift that you can make here, I think. And like I said, I'll send you some more notes by email, and then like with Shoku today, we can review both of those. All right, I'm going to quickly check the messages and see if there's anything here that is nice. Everybody's throwing in some of their specific notes, the things that stood out. Thanks for a great lesson today. My name is Michael Bean. This was your lesson from myfreeactingclass.com, and I will be back next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I think is what we're on right now. We've got 3-4 more weeks to go in the spring session, so I'm excited to keep working with y'all.